Good morning. My name is Juan Pablo, and I'm going to talk about the direct, indirect, and oblique object. First, we have here in this graphic organizer information related to these three objects. Um, First, we have the characteristics of each one. So, what it is. Direct object can be a noun or a pronoun, as the indirect object too, and the oblique object is similar to indirect object, so can be a noun or pronoun too. Then, to understand, well, later we are going to check the examples. That is, I think it's better to understand this, but here we are going to have to give some information. So one of the main characteristics of the direct object is what is affected. So the action of a verb affects this direct object. So is the receiver of the action. The direct object is who receives the action of the verb. Then we have the indirect object, and the indirect object receives from the direct object the information. And well, oblique we are going to check later, but oblique is more like the preposition of a phrase. We are going to check this at the end. Then something interesting to know or to find the direct object, we have to make a question, and the question will start with what or whom did the action, who did with the verb, to check what is the direct object. To these questions in the case of indirect object will be to, at, for, from, whom. So to whom, at, for whom, or from whom. Okay, as I say, similar the oblique object. Then we can check the position of the direct object and the indirect object. Sometimes it changes, so it will be not always the same place in the sentence or the same position of this direct or indirect object. So the direct object, yes, will be after the main verb and after the indirect object. I say this because sometimes will be after the main verb and sometimes will be after the indirect object. So that's why I say it's not always the same place in a sentence. Then we have the indirect object. Indirect object will be always after the main verb and before the direct object. Some rules, well, in the case of the indirect object, it must be a direct object to have an indirect object. So direct object can be without indirect object, but not on the other direction. That if there isn't direct object, it can be indirect object. Okay. Then, well, here I found this information that the simple indirect object is one word, like boy, noun, and complex it will be more information, more words, information related to the indirect object. Usually, usually verbs, I put usually verbs, but always have to be transitive verb for the direct object, always have to, and the verbs and direct object will be a given verbs or communicating verbs. Okay, so here we have some examples to check this what we're talking about. For example, the first example is related to direct object. So here we have Mary feed the dog. So the dog is the direct object. How we can find the direct object? Because we are going to ask this question: what is Mary uh, what is Mary feeling. So Mary's feed the dog. So the dog is the direct object. In the other sentence we have Juan read the newspaper. What is reading Juan? The newspaper. What does read Juan? The newspaper. Okay. What does read Juan? The newspaper. Okay. This is the question to find the direct object. Then we have the indirect object. Here we have he gave, as I say, the indirect object is before the verb. I put here this indirect object because it's the place, but in the sentence this has to be after the main verb. So he gave the students a homework. Okay, she passed her husband a key or the key. Okay, so the question here is what for whom he gave a homework for the students, for whom who received the action of the direct object, for whom he gave the homework for the students. As I say in a sentence, the students have to be here just for the position I put just in this place. Okay, so the next the same. She passed the key she passes her husband the key for whom the key was passed, for her husband. Okay, at the end we have these examples about the oblique object. The oblique object is more like a prepositional phrase. For the sentence, the example is he wrote a message for him. It's similar, that's what you put here, it's similar to indirect object. It's similar because if we ask the question to find the indirect object, like for whom he wrote a message, for him, but here we have a preposition, so it's not a direct object, it's a prepositional phrase. Okay, sometimes or always we can change this sentence that is oblique object to indirect object. How we can change this? We could change like that. He wrote Peter a message. So if we say he wrote Peter, here Peter after the main verb, a message, we are going to have as indirect object Peter. He wrote Peter a message, for whom a message was wrote Peter. Okay, here I have some another examples about direct object and some other information. What comes after the verb, as we already said. The verb in direct object has to be transitive. The verb has to pass the action. The verb has to pass the action and complete a meaning. So Peter drinks wine. What does he drink? Wine. Wine is the direct object. He is receiving the action of the verb drinks. Okay? Many people like Mexican food. What do many people like? Mexican food will be the direct object. Again, she loves cooking seafood. What does she love? Is the main verb. What does she loves? Cooking the seafood. For the indirect object, we have here some examples, some information again. Direct object is between the main verb and the direct object. To have an indirect object, it must be a direct object, can be without direct object. Indirect object. So indirect object receive the direct object information. Teacher gave the students a homework. Here we have the indirect object, the students, because teacher gave a homework direct object, and indirect object the students. Peter bought Emma a car. Direct object a car because Peter bought what? Peter bought a car. For whom? For Emma. Okay? She passed him the bill. Passed what? What she passed? The bill. For whom? For him. Okay? And at the end, oblique object. Oblique object is a prepositional phrase, is not an indirect object. It's similar but is not. Mario bought chocolates for her wife. For here's the preposition. And I read a book to my kids. To here I have preposition. Peter gave instructions to his employees. To his employees. So it's really similar to indirect object, but here we have a preposition and it's not indirect object. All these sentences can be transformed to indirect object. Yes, Mario bought chocolates for her wife, and he could say Mario bought her wife chocolates. Then we could change to indirect object. That's all, and thank you very much.